Okay. What are we doing? Fitness fads. He looks like he knows what he's talking about.
Before we dive into the specifics of what identity claims very healthy lives, there are people who don't, majority of people. So with that out of the way, in my opinion, the most dangerous fitness fad in 2024 is the carnivore diet. Now, depending on who you ask, there are many ways to follow the carnivore diet. I'm specifically talking about basically eliminating fiber from your diet, not having any fruits, not having any vegetables, not having any nuts or seeds, and mainly focusing just on
I feel very
meat.
called out
And
right
before
now
anyone
with
freaks
the way
out
this
and
man's
says that
talking
I'm
to
saying
me.
meat is bad for you, that is not the case at all. Meat has many, many health benefits, but when your diet is almost solely or entirely made up of meat at the expense of everything else, that is unbelievably dangerous.
I did not ask to be called out, Jordan.
Now, before I go into why it's dangerous, there are many people who do the carnivore diet and report improved health status in various health markers, and I want to discuss that briefly. Many people, when they begin the carnivore diet, especially if they're starting at a very high body fat percentage, they lose a lot of weight. And that's not surprising because they're reducing their calorie intake dramatically. They're cutting out all carbs. They're cutting out all processed foods. They are dramatically reducing their caloric intake, and they lose a lot of body fat. And when you lose a lot of body fat, your health markers are going to improve. So if you take someone who's very overweight and loses a lot of body fat through following the carnivore diet in a brief period of time, their health might actually improve as a result of following the carnivore diet.
True.
My concern is, number one, what happens if they continue with the carnivore diet for many months and years down the road? Not to mention the potential issues that come from the mindset of feeling like you need to remove all carbs and all processed foods, and if you do include them, God forbid, then it must mean that you're unhealthy and you ruin your diet. What happens with your relationship with food and potential disordered eating habits as a result of that? Other people report improved health benefits with the carnivore diet from skin issues like psoriasis or eczema, and oftentimes this is because the carnivore diet is essentially an elimination diet where you are only eating meat and you might be removing some foods from your diet that could be causing potential issues, either gut issues or skin issues or other issues. So when you remove them from your diet, all of a sudden you feel better, especially in the short term. Again, my concern being, what if you continue to follow this for a long time? Approach. So now that we understand there are some people who might be experiencing some benefits from carnivore, especially in the short term, I do want to talk about why I think it's so dangerous, especially in a long-term perspective. For me, the number one issue with carnivore is the complete elimination of fiber. Now, I know many carnivore proponents will say that you don't need fiber and it's not important, but I promise you they have no clue what they are talking about. And you believing them is incredibly, incredibly dangerous because we have an overwhelming amount of data showing us how important fiber is for our long-term health and longevity. And maybe the people you follow doing and promoting carnivore might show you a study from PubMed showing how fiber isn't important, but I promise you, if you don't understand the totality of research that we've been provided as a whole over years and years and years from the research community, the overwhelming preponderance of research is showing us that fiber is essential for your health and longevity. And I'm not saying that fiber is going to prevent cancer. I'm not saying that fiber is going to prevent you from having a heart attack. I'm not saying that fiber is a miracle food that's going to make you live forever. It's not, but I am saying that a lack of fiber is going to radically increase your risk of many issues, including something like colon cancer. And when you combine that with high consumption of meat and next to no fiber, you are unnecessarily radically increasing your risk of colon cancer and other issues down the road. And that is main concern.
Mineral deficiencies, I see. Yes.
Now, there are many other vitamins as a result of following.
Okay, Jordan, what do you recommend? Tell us.
Now, at this point, especially if you don't follow me or haven't seen my work before, you're probably wondering, what's my recommendation? What do I think is the quick fix? What do I think is the most optimal and healthy diet? And the truth is, there isn't one optimal or one single healthiest diet. There are some clues that research has found. I'm going to give you these in a second. But if we look at the longest living populations in the world, we look at people in Japan, we look at people in Italy, we look at people in Sweden, we look all across the world at the longest living populations in Greece, for example, all of these populations have very different diets. They don't follow the same one, and they are among the top longest living populations in the world. And it's not just because of diet, it's also lifestyle factors as well and many other factors. But this shows us that diet doesn't have to be one. It doesn't have to be a single approach for everybody. For me, the most important components of a healthy diet is number one, mostly whole, minimally processed foods. I would love for you to get a lot of protein in. I have no problem with you getting a lot of protein in. I have no problem with you having red meat. I have no problem with you having fish. I have no problem with you having chicken or eggs. None of that. I love it. Cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, they're all wonderful. I also have no problem with beans or lentils or legumes. Research shows us those are wonderful. I have no problem.
Okay, Jordan. So basically you're telling me that we should just be healthy and that we should just eat different food groups. Didn't know that, Jordan. Thanks.